Do you remember the story of Mohini, the white tiger? She was gifted to the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. back in the 60s. And while a grand landscape was being built to house her, she spent her days in a 12-foot by 12-foot cell, pacing constantly. When Mohini was finally given space to roam, she had already internalized the constraints of the cell. Instead of exploring her new surroundings, she paced a 12-foot by 12-foot area until the lush habitat was worn down to dirt. She was constrained not by bars, but by the habits and patterns that limited her perception of possibility. If you just felt a twinge, the inner discomfort or pain of empathy hearing about Mohini, then your imagination is in good shape. Empathy exercises the imagination, and a strong imagination builds our capacity for empathy. The failure to notice and feel the pain of our fellow beings, to recognize another's full humanity, is a failure of imagination. This is not child's play. Imagination is critical to our ability to grow, adapt, and thrive. Imagination has the power to disrupt whole systems of oppression because intrinsic to imagination is a basic refusal to accept things as they are and to instead work with, embrace, and inhabit the land of possibility. Imagination doesn't have a location, at least not an agreed upon location. If I say, use your imagination, and you take a moment to try, how do you access it? Where do you personally store or harbor the Rolodex that is using your imagination? For you, is it inside the body or outside the body, the self? Explore it with me. Really live the question. How are you using your imagination in your life right now? When is it the tool that you reach for? Or when are you aware of a lack of imagination being an impediment to solving a problem? Are you a worrier? Are you afraid of extremely unlikely things? Does your mind run wild with worst-case scenarios? If so, then you too have a healthy and powerful imagination. An example, we have dogs and we take them hiking, so checking for ticks is a routine activity in our home. And the other day I was walking into the living room and I felt a tickle on my neck and I brushed it and ignored it. And then I felt it again and I reached back and looked in my hand and I found myself just shrieking and jumping around. And I flung the tick onto the floor, so then we had to look for it. We found it, and Marianne bravely washed it down the sink. And a few minutes later, I went to get a glass of water to calm myself down. And there was that tenacious little tick crawling out of the garbage disposal. My imagination soared with ridiculous, impossible stories. For days after, and even now, I'm a little twitchy whenever I feel a tickle. And it's an excellent reminder of the power of imagination to build sensations, stories, and whole worlds that feel incredibly real. I am responsible for my actions and my reactions. I am not my thoughts, but but I determine my habits and patterns of thinking, and these give shape and structure to the world I inhabit, and to the possibilities and limitations I perceive and understand are available to me. If you've joined in one of my workshops or classes outside of worship, then you've likely had the chance to try one of the exercises I'm fond of using from Augusto Boal. These exercises are designed to challenge our patterns and habits of thought, of action and of reaction. They're intended to encourage us towards new possibilities by skillfully wielding the power of imagination. If you're unfamiliar with Augusto Boal, he was a contemporary of Paulo Freire, and we're more likely to know Paulo because he transformed the way that we think about education with his work, Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Both men came of age in Brazil during a period of authoritarian dictatorship and intense social inequality known as Estado Novo. And that But this means that we can look to the ways other societies have innovated and transformed in response to political upheaval and oppressive regimes for inspiration. That's the good news. Anyhow, Augusto Boal was the revolutionary creator of the theater of the oppressed. He understood the value of imagination and with his work developed a transportable method, a living laboratory for cultivating it. He offers, the liberated imagination is a key condition for the liberation of the individual and the liberation of society. Freedom of imagination precedes freedom of expression. Liberation is the goal, the destination, the hope at the heart of much spiritual and religious practice across traditions. Freedom of expression is a shared value in this community, in this country, and beyond. It is a right guaranteed to us by the Constitution. Imagination is the how. And so maybe that's why we are so often conditioned to diminish, devalue, and underestimate its importance. I recall taking a written exam in graduate school, and at the end, for those who had time, was a bonus question. It read, "What does a just world look like?" And then in parentheses it said, hint, use your imagination. Because we don't know. We have not yet lived in a just world. We will have to dream it into being. Imagination transcends limitations. It knows something else is possible and urges us to action. Joanna Macy, homegrown author, activist, and philosopher, offers, out of this, a new world can arise, not to be constructed by our minds so much as to emerge from our dreams. Even though we cannot see clearly how it's going to turn out, we are still called to let the future into our imagination. We will never be able to build what we have not first cherished in our hearts. We must imagine it if we are to be it, offer it, or inhabit it. Imagination itself is yet another skill we can practice and improve at. This community, this sanctuary, is our living laboratory, our place to explore together what it means to be human, the gift of our connectivity, and the dreams we hold independently and collectively. May we grow in our ability to imagine. May liberation be born from our deep embrace of possibility. Amen. Amin. Ashe.